with an opening prayer. So I'm going to call on Urhobo Edore Agba to lead us in the opening prayer.
Urhobo Ado.
Hey.
Urhobo Ado.
Hey.
Olivier Ricocori, Minimian.
Hey.
Yenova Akponege on Yetina. If I can hear Camio, Berisogane, Agbada Guru, or below the Takboru. Also, no blue wear. Amani, Robo, Amai Pongwe, Amai Gilwe. There, would we move you walk Amani? Nunena, Amai Perisewe, ne, oh, ta, be, Eraman, Amai when age, Lily Urhobo se Pobana, or an epi Bobby. No, by my time and age, age of back, age of the Agba, age of the Eramole, Ese will Urhobo Pobalo. Am I not? I mean, with the Jesus Christi, or Siramale?
Yes, sir. Thank you very much, distinguished Urhobo Edore Agba, for that opening prayer. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome once again to the Urhobo Global Webinar on Agriculture. We have our distinguished speakers to include Professor Malaki Akoroda, Professor of Agriculture, University of Ibadan. He is an expert in yam, cassava, banana, sweet potato, and a dozen horticultural crops, especially in the area of breeding and seed systems agronomy. We also have an Amazon, Honorable Stella Okotite, one that we're all proud of, the Executive Director, Business Development, Nigerian Export-Import Bank. Stella, her job responsibilities include providing operational leadership for the bank, as well as conceptualizing and developing new products and services, among others. We have the honor of the very distinguished Chief Albert Akpamuje, Senior Advocate of Nigeria, a distinguished and experienced litigator who has successfully represented clients across various sectors in several contentious and landmark cases. And last but not the least, we have Mr. Obaru Osa, the Regional Manager, South Bank of the Bank of Industry. Osa has over 20 years experience in banking from the commercial bank before he's now gone into the development banking. His responsibilities include managing, growing, and developing MSMEs businesses profitably across the region. So we want to say a big thank you to our very distinguished speakers who have been gracious to join us today. At this point, I would like to invite our keynote speaker, Professor Malaki Akoroda, Professor of Agriculture, University of Ibadan, to give us the keynote address. Thank you very much, Professor Malaki. Over to you.
Yeah. The title of the address is clear in slide 1, which I would like Benson to show. Urhobo land is not very big compared to other states in Nigeria. The map that you can see here shows that we have 5 neighbors: Ichekiri, Ijo, Isoko, Ukwani, and then the Edo to the north. That area is not very big. Therefore, our strategy for agriculture will not be land-based. It should be something that deals with small land area for accumulating value through processing technology using machines. It will be very important for us to see that even though we are not very rich in terms of land, because of the huge population we have in that area and industries and roads, we must begin to think of high value products that will come from our work. Slide 2. Can you go to the next slide? Benson, the next slide, yes. We have a lot of crops that we can grow in Urhobo land. 52 can be listed, but I don't know whether we need to grow 52. A few of them are special to our area. In the first group, we will not grow maize or rice commercial level in Urhobo land. Cassava, yes. Sweet potato, yes. Among the oil crops, the most important one we can specialize in is oil palm and coconut. Oil palm and coconut. In the fruit group, plantain and bananas. There are other special areas that we can deal with, and they are all listed there. Leaf and vegetables, no. I say no. They will stay in the gardens of people. But as a matter of commerce, we need to know how we can process, store, package, transport to any part of Nigeria to make money. Before I go further, business in Urhobo land need not be sited in Urhobo land. Urhobo people can gather money and plant anything anywhere in Nigeria and ship it to the place where it can be processed profitably, packaged profitably, and distributed profitably. You can go to the place that has the best ecology, grow it with Urhobo funds, Urhobo management, package it and market it across Nigeria and outside. So when we talk of Urhobo business, it's not just within the small space that we have. We must say that there are some we can grow, as I have mentioned, but there are others we need not. Next slide, please. Next slide, please. Yes, I want to say that you can grow timber. AT&P used to depend on Edo State timber, but Urhobo land can grow timber in all edges of land. Land where agriculture is not possible, timber can be put there. Shrubs, orange, and various other things that can be used for fruits. The fruit company must be based in Urhobo land to employ people. Avocado is a special crop. It can be grown very well in Delta because it is an all-season area with wet land. Therefore, it can be packaged and exported to all parts of Nigeria. Israel produces avocado in dry land and take to all parts of Europe. Oil palm, it is not just for the oil, but for all parts. There are so many things that can come from oil palm. The third level processing materials, whether soap, whether oils, bleached oil, turned into other things, special fruits that are within Urhobo land, Imako, when in season, can be cleaned, dried, bottled, packaged, and exported worldwide. I have kept Imako seeds in bottles for over 1 year, and they are good. Somebody in Switzerland who eats Imako will be very happy. Rubber and shoe sole factory must be built in Urhobo land. I do not see why Urhobo land will be exporting raw rubber. When Omini in Sapele was making shoe soles, crepe soles, and then people will buy crepe soles and send elsewhere. Today, we send our rubber, they use them to make Clark sandals, and they send back to us, and we cannot buy them. A zoological garden for tourism and entertainment is a must in Urhobo land. We have so many animals, and there's a lot of population, a lot of schools. Excursion to those schools will employ a lot of people. What of the herbal industry? The Chinese type. We have a lot of herbs. We know them, and we have headmen all over in the villages, but nobody has documented and put them in a way that can be saturated and sold the way they sell all kinds of tea across the world. We can do this. It doesn't need big space. Let's come to the livestock. Goats, ruminants, pork products, and all. We don't need to really have big ones. Once you set up a processing factory, the goats and the other things can be brought from anywhere, properly processed, dried, chunked, packaged, and exported to all markets of Nigeria and even in West Africa. Can you go to the next slide, please? I want to say that not too long ago, I submitted a proposal for a 3-year to plant 1 million fruit trees in Urhobo land. That is the budget that I submitted. And I've asked myself, even though I submitted it, can Urhobo people not quickly activate this? You ask me, 1 million fruit trees in Urhobo land, who will eat it? Who will buy it? Who will store it? How many people will be involved in the work? So much. Next slide, please. Next slide, please. Yeah. We have specialty food, but all of them are never packaged. By now, I should be able to just take a sachet, tear the sachet, bring out the amide, boil it, just warm it and start eating. Why? A factory can be built that does all of these things. Popo Gari and all these things, they are all in the rudimentary stage. All of them can be commercialized. What I'm saying is commercialization, industry, factory, technology, and export and marketing. Next slide. These are the uses we can put oil palm products to. Many of us are only used to some of them. I know that Ogogoro is a local drink, but there are ways to make it international. Now we see people who mix fruits with ethanol to give very high valued drinks. We know there is perfume base for high quality perfume. Why can't a factory deal with this and use local products? The materials, the raw materials are already there, but it is that tertiary level processing into high value product that is missing. And that is where we should dwell in the little space that we have as far as Urhobo land is concerned. Next slide, please. Next slide, please. It is the French people who eat avocado in virtually every meal. And I try to ask, why so? Those of you who are very good in nutrition, if you go and Google avocado nutrition, you find that this is one of the best fruits for human health. I won't speak further than that, but it grows very well. As a small schoolboy, I had a tree and I sold my fruits to my classmates. I didn't know what it was until I got to the university studying agriculture and found that it was a magic crop, but we don't do business with it. Next slide. Next slide. Yes. Fish and prawn are possible in all the creeks of Urhobo land. Baskets of plastic sunk into the river, where the fish is in captivity in a natural environment. And we can produce fingerlings, we can produce fish, we can produce prawn, particularly the species that are not found elsewhere apart from Urhobo land. Those particular fishes cannot be found elsewhere. And I think it is very important that we specialize in the things that we have already. And when those type of fishes are filleted, packaged, smoked, exported, then money will come. But I think that we have left the ones we know and we are pursuing the ones we don't know. Next slide, please. Next slide. Cassava. I said that time when we were doing the dry run that cassava can be made into 1,000 products. And somebody said, it's not up to. I tell you, I was in Brazil for 2 full weeks, traveling across the country, looking at what cassava starch, cassava peels, cassava liquid, even the liquid they use for doing formic acid to coagulate rubber, everything was used maximally. But here we throw everything away. I want to ask that everything about cassava, I was working at the International Institute, and the people from Zaire, the Congo, the Democratic Republic of Congo, they wanted 60 tons of cassava leaf to be exported to their country. South Africans want cassava leaf to be exported. For what? It has 23% protein. It helps for animal growth. Why are we not using the ones we have? We don't know about it. There is no factory to process it. We take the little we can, throw the rest away, so we don't make the maximum profit. Next slide, please. I want to say that Urhobo land is blessed, because if you look at the issue of hunger, in some countries, hunger has become so strong. I know that in Somalia, in Malawi, and many countries of East Africa, hunger is a very, very bad thing. I don't know the number of people that are hungry in Urhobo land. Agriculture in terms of gardening in their small areas, producing those things they can sell to the factory. All of this will be very, very helpful. I want to say that there are many areas where factories can come into Urhobo land using those things that are already available. That's one. Two, even where we do not have the raw material, if you set up a factory, just as Singapore buys everything from outside and process, we can do exactly the same if we have people who have the knowledge, the capacity, and the funding. I want to say that in the question and answer time, we'll be able to dwell in details to many of those things, but the two things I will say: technology, machine, know-how, and processing into storable products, exportable products, and products that can have long shelf life, not fresh, easy to eat items. Those ones are what we are doing now, but that is not what we should look for in the near future. I want to thank you all for listening, and I would like to continue when the question time comes, and I will be able to touch many more aspects. Because of the fact that we have very little time, I know that once you set up factories, electricity, theft, rascality, local problems will come. Even when those problems are there, other people are already taking advantage of the area and they are producing. Whoever goes into a forest should not expect to see a city in a forest. He will take care of the forest, manage the forest, exploit the forest, and make a good living from the forest. Urhobo land is forest area and can be domesticated and made better using the technology and knowledge we now have among Urhobo in the nation Nigeria and in diaspora. I greet you all and wish the best for this webinar. God bless.
Thank you very much. Very powerfully delivered, distinguished Professor Malaki Akoroda. We are very grateful for that opening remarks and the tone that you've set for this conversation. Before we continue, once again, if you are just joining us, we want to welcome you to the Urhobo Global Webinar on Agriculture as a comparative advantage for the Urhobo Nation. We have just finished the keynote presentation, and therefore we'll go into more intense conversation with our distinguished professor. But before we continue, I'd like to do a quick poll. And if you can see this poll, I'd like you to just answer the question that is showing on your screen. The Urhobo Nation has strong comparative advantage in agriculture. Yes, no, not sure. Keep the votes coming. It's 60 seconds. Okay. I'm going to just give another 5 seconds for those who are joining us to join the conversation. Okay, so I'm ending the poll here. And I'm going to be sharing the results. So you can see the results. We have about 90.6% saying that, yes, we have great potential in agriculture. And then only 8% said no, that's 7.5%. And 1.9% said not sure. So I think this conversation we're having today is very strategic because we all agree that agriculture is a great sector for us to invest in. At this point, I'd like to bring to speak to us our next speaker, the very distinguished Stella Okotite. I've introduced her before, and she's just going to share her perspectives on financing agriculture, also talking from her experience in Nexim and what opportunities, you know, Urhobo have in achieving the ability to scale up. So Stella, you're welcome. Can you hear me? Can you unmute your mic? Okay, I need to unmute you. Okay. Just a second.
I want to once again welcome everyone to this program. I'll be talking about the opportunities that exist in Nexim Bank for agricultural investment in Urhobo land. From the lead speaker, I took note of cassava, palm, rubber. He didn't make mention of these, but processed wood is also something we can develop in Urhobo land and export. Some days back, I heard that the AT&P Sapler will be stripped of its assets. It's high time we, set up the SPV to see if we can manage and, get that place running as a value-added, wood processing factory for floor woods and other wood byproducts that we can actually develop from there. We also have fish, and he also didn't make mention of cocoa. So for me, these six commodities will be areas of interest for exports. We all know that cassava is what we use for our gari, but like the lead speaker also made mention, we could process cassava into ethanol, into industrial starch for exports. Currently, Nigeria is importing over 90 billion naira worth of industrial starch consumption here. West Africa is doing 235 billion naira worth of industrial starch. We boast as being the giant of Africa, and like it or leave it, I don't have the statistics, but I know that cassava is grown everywhere in Urhobo land. So we can definitely, build on this and create ethanol and industrial starch processing plants in Urhobo land. Palm oil, we remember that palm was taken from Nigeria to Malaysia. Today, Malaysia and Indonesia, they are doing greatly well in palm production. Nigeria we're far behind. And I think it's a wake-up call. Government has products and facilities that would encourage investors to actually invest in palm production and palm plantations and palm productions. From plantation to the end product, soap and all of that, we can do that. Palm kernel oil, it's a whole lot. Palm kernel cake for exports, there's high demand for that in the industry. If you go to rubber, another advantage, So all of these are things we already know. So I'll just quickly run you through what Nexim Bank has currently for agricultural development. I also did a research on Ministry of Agriculture, Federal Ministry of Agriculture, the financial schemes they have, as well as CBN and NISAL. From Nexim end, we have the Export Development Facility. It's a 150, it used to be 50 billion, but the CBN graciously has approved another 100 billion for us. So we have a 150 billion naira export development facility to develop exportable commodities to the world. Cassava is on that list. Palm is on that list. The good thing about it is this is a single-digit interest and facility. And so if you do your mappings where your workings where you can actually break even in the first 3 years. Apart from the financial gains of breaking even, we can employ millions of our unemployed youths in Urhobo land from this from the use of this facility. We also have the Afri-Exim NATIPS facility. It's a facility designed to support intra-African trade. We are aware that the country has graciously signed last year the Intra-Africa Trade Treaty amongst African countries. And so government in its wisdom is trying to encourage us to produce for Africa. If we do not produce for Africa, we will be a dumping ground for other African countries that were ahead of us. South Africa is doing a whole lot of production. It took Nigeria almost 4 years after ShopRite came on board for Nigerians to start producing and selling in ShopRite. And till date, ShopRite is still importing some of the agri-commodities they sell on their shelves. So we have this product with Afri-Exim. It's NATIPS. It's $1 billion facility. It's a single digit in US dollars. And we encourage it for export, so you're not burnt by the FX shocks or differentials that might arise. We all know that today, if you earn in dollars, you're a very rich person because the black market window is giving you dollar at 450. So export is the way to go. A dollar is 450. I don't know why we need to, stay back and, avoid or stay out of these opportunities that are available. We also have the NESF, the Non-Oil Export Stimulation Facility. It's a 500 billion naira export stimulation facility to help stimulate export development. The facilities are available, and by the grace of God, we're processing on daily basis applications that are coming in to benefit from this, from all of these facilities I've mentioned. Under the CBN, we have the Anchor Borrower Scheme. I don't know how many investors or industrialists or farmers or agri-entrepreneurs are, participating in this scheme. The Anchor Borrowers is real. You could be an anchor and you could get as much as 5-10 billion naira. It depends on the commodity you're export processing or you're selling. Outside the Anchor Borrower Scheme, the CBN also has the Agricultural Credit Support Scheme. By the way, we are PFIs to all of these schemes, meaning that we could help you process and get approvals for all of these schemes. The Agricultural Credit Support Scheme is also there. The funds are disbursed to farmers. The interest rate is 8%. We also have the Commercial Agricultural Credit Scheme. This is for large enterprises, for big businesses that can employ, large scale businesses that can employ over 1,000 persons. You can come under the Commercial Agricultural Scheme. These are the schemes that are currently available. We also have, products that we can actually develop for communities or for state. We call it the State Export Development Facility. This facility is it's supposed to be a 1 billion, but when we got to Delta earlier this year, my MD graciously approved us to do beyond 1 billion for Delta State. So that scheme is currently available in Delta State. It's a 2 billion naira facility that can help support export development. We noticed that especially in the South, we hardly have commercial productions for export. Call it cassava, from palm and all of that. They're all done in the micro level and they are done to actually take care of the domestic needs. So we're trying to develop some of these commodities. The commodities I made mention of earlier, cassava, palm, rubber, processed wood, fish, and cocoa. We're trying to develop them in the states so we could have the volumes and exports. How can you benefit from all of these schemes? They might look big, they might sound very unrealistic, but they are real. You can benefit from this scheme. We had a test run some days back. First thing for Urhobo to do right now is for us to develop SPVs. We should come together, develop special purpose vehicles in which we'll definitely drive them they should be sector driven, so we can avail such funds to these SPVs to actually carry out the business. That is one. Another opportunity that is open is that if you're an industrialist or you're an entrepreneur, you're interested in actually building or developing any of these crops, you believe you have the capacity, you can apply to us. The website, I would give the details to Benson, so Benson can put it up. There would review your application. Currently, we have some from Delta State, we have from Saple that we've approved, we have from Ugeli, we have, for rubber, for palm, and for cassava, we're still talking to some potential investors to see if they can actually avail the counterpart funding requirements for us to give them the facilities they want to develop that. How do we mobilize ourselves to get all of this? It's very simple. I'm sure Chief Afomuje will talk to us about the Land Act and all of that that's available to us. All we need from you is just a legal mortgage. What's your legal mortgage? It could be your land. We could also do an asset debenture if you're going into value addition. For us right now, what is key to Nexim Bank is value addition. We want to see that you do not export cocoa or rubber in its raw form. We want to see that you are adding value to it, because we understand that for every raw commodity or every unprocessed commodity you export, you're actually exporting labor, because wherever your export destination is, they will definitely have to add value and all of that. And it's premium when you add value to any of these commodities. What can we do to promote the growth of agricultural potentials in Urhobo land? The major thing we can do is what we're doing now. Enlighten ourselves, get to the needed information. The informations are there. By the grace of God, we have, sons and daughters that are highly placed, well-educated, well-equipped with the information. So we just need to synergize. We need to collaborate. Synergy is very important at this time. We need to, look inwardly and make sure that we're doing a business that is sustainable, businesses that will outlive us and, outlive what we think we would gain beyond money, that would create employment. Because the insecurity we have in the land right now is not really just caused because there's no money, it's caused because people are idle. And an idle man is the devil's workshop. So I believe if we can, create the SPV as soon as possible, if Urhobo sons and daughters are interested in agri-development, agri-business, you have to see it as a business that you think you can develop to build capacity, create employment, and not drive big cars. Yes, you drive big cars from agriculture, but we must set the priorities straight and be willing to, sacrifice the first 2 years, break even before you start eating up the profit, because that's very important. So those are the capacity aspects and what we would look at while, grading you for any of these facilities. These are basically what is available at Nexim. If you think you have the potentials, you think you have the capacities, you have the business that can run any of these items, commodities I've itemized, please do not fail to reach me. Benson will definitely come up with my email as well as my company website, neximbank.com.ng. Apply, and I can assure you, I have just 2 more years in Nexim, so your application should come as soon as today, so that before I leave, we could definitely avail you the funds, and we'll get Urhobo land to, be an agri destination when it comes to cassava, ethanol, industrial starch, palm oil, and rubber. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Very distinguished Amazon. We are very proud of you, and we thank you for all that you have done already. The information that she's talked about is available on the Urhobo Webinar website too. And Stella is one that is readily available to support Urhobo cause. Thank you very much. We'll come back to you in the interaction. But before we proceed, I'd like us to quickly take a poll. Before I bring in the next speaker, you're going to see this poll now. I want your response to this question. What, in your opinion, is the biggest challenge to agricultural production in Urhobo land? So you have to choose one. I know there are a lot, but let's see which of them is our biggest challenge. So the one with the biggest challenge would come up in our poll. So just choose. Keep the votes coming. Make sure you have voted. Everyone should vote, please. Okay. Okay. All right, so I'm going to end the poll now and share the results that we have here. So the results are coming to your screen now. All right. Okay, so from the results you can see, there is a tie between funding and lack of awareness. So 25% of all said funding is the biggest challenge. Another 25 said lack of awareness. So there's a tie there, 25.4% respectively. And in that order, we have insecurity as 22%. So we can all see the challenges we have, from insufficient land to legal challenges, laziness, so urbanization, leadership failure. So those are some of the challenges identified from the poll. The next speaker is a senior advocate of Nigeria and a renowned lawyer who has been involved in litigation matters and disputes on land. And he's going to be talking to us from the legal perspective in terms of what we can do, to promote land security as well as growth in the Urhobo Nation. So I welcome Mr. Chief Albert Akwamoje, Senior Advocate of Nigeria. Megwosa, unmute your mic. Can you unmute your mic, sir?
Yes, please.
Okay.
Right.
We can hear you, sir.
Urhobado.
Hey.
First, let me appreciate Benson and his team for putting this discussion together. I want to appreciate you, and I also want to thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak. Now, I agree with the lead speaker when he talks of processing of agri-product as being more beneficial to the Urhobo people. There's no doubt about that processed products gives you more income than when you export the raw materials like that. But my worry is that before you get to the point of processing, where do you start? That is what we call the base. To me, in Urhobo land, the most important thing we should be thinking about, and which Stella touched on, is for us to develop the agri sector in Urhobo land in such a way that we should be able to have enough raw materials. It is when you have enough raw materials that you cannot think of processing. So the base of everything that we must look at, and which is going to be the most beneficial thing to the Urhobo people, is to ensure that we have mechanized farming. When we have mechanized farming, we are sure to produce large quantity of products that will service the processing industries. Now, from there, we go to the next question. Issue of land is the most important thing when you're talking about agric. And land tenure system in Urhobo, like most of us know, is a very complex one. Land is either owned by families or communities. For individuals to own land, it means you must have inherited it, or it was partitioned to you, or it was given to you by your family. Now, for an investor coming to Urhobo land with the mind of establishing a very big commercial farm, you will have to deal with quite a good number of people, because you cannot get the extent of land you want for mechanized farming from just one source. So what happens in most cases is that you now deal with quite a lot of families, communities, in order for you to be able to acquire enough land to establish a mechanized farming. Now, the problem with that is that when the investor comes, the first problem we will have with who am I going to deal with? Who is really the owner? And this has caused a lot of litigation in court. Once people are coming to invest and they want to acquire land, you see everybody jumping off that this is my land, this is my land. At the end of the day, you go to court. You would have discouraged such an investor. So what is the way forward? Now, with my little experience as the National Secretary of the Urhobo Progress Union, past, I know that presently the setup in our villages, in our kingdoms, have changed to a very large extent. Now we have unions which control either the kingdom or the respective communities. And these unions have their executive. They are able to make policies that will guide the town, that will administer the town. In conjunction, I'm not going to say that without reference to our traditional setup, that's the traditional rulers. Like in the villages where you don't have traditional rulers, you have the most senior man of Pakurere. You work together to bring out policies that will be beneficial to every person in the community. In this issue of land, if we're able to involve these unions, whereby they can assist to manage land owned by different set of families or communities, you find out that we will have better results in attracting investors to come and develop our agri sector in Urhobo land. Now, involving them also, we guarantee the safety of our land. Because when a family is taking up issues with those threatening to take their land, you find out that it is more difficult for one person to do so than if the community comes together, and then you now put all your ideas together as if it is a communal fight, rather than leaving it to one individual, one family, or one community. This will also save us. For example, if you have laws in place within the community and say that nobody outside the community can come and acquire land, freehold, you would have saved most of our people from selling out their land outright to investors and having nothing to hold back on. So the point I'm making is that let us try and involve the executive of the various unions, the various town unions or kingdom unions, to help manage the land of their respective communities. That is one. Another area that is now in vogue is that the landowners within any particular community can form a trust. When you form a trust, you get seasoned people. You have a board of trustees, people with experience, people with ideas, who will manage our land to attract investors. Because what puts most investors off is that when they come, what they have to cope with in terms of knowing who to deal with is a big problem. But when you have a trust, the investor knows who to approach. I give you an example. The Okpes, they have the Okpe Communal Land Trust. It is not that individuals, it's not that families do not own land, but the families have kind of given them power to administer the land, and the benefits come to the families. With such a situation, you find out that there will be more progress in terms of attracting investors to invest in agri sector in rural. The present situation where we have, the present situation in rural land is subsistence farming, where our locals just go to the farm and they harvest, they eat, and the little left is what they sell. And I think when Stella mentioned that the funding, if you talk of funding, for people to invest their money in big scale farming, then of course, they should be sure that nothing would disturb their business. And I do not agree that we should go and invest. The lead speaker made mention of that, of the fact that we don't necessarily have to do the business of agric in Urhobo land. Well, I think that is, to me, it is better for us to do the investment in Urhobo land. It will create employment opportunity for our people rather than go to a strange land to invest. That is my stake on that. And he also mentioned, that's the lead speaker, that Urhobo people can come together and do the investment. That's a very tall order. Getting Urhobo people to come together and go and invest. I think what we should do is to encourage. What we can do is create the enabling environment for investors to come and invest in the agricultural sector of Urhobo land. I think the coordinator Benson said we will be speaking for just 7 minutes, and I will pause and allow other speakers to make their presentation, and then we can then take questions thereafter.
Thank you very much. Very distinguished Albert Akpomuje, Senior Advocate of Nigeria, for that illuminating presentation and insights. God bless you very much, sir. At this point, I'd like to bring our brother, Mr. Obaru Osa, to speak to us on the opportunities for investments in agriculture from the Bank of Industry. Mr. Obaru, can you adjust your video a bit? You're a bit on, your head is low. Yes, better. Okay, fantastic. Okay, can you hear me? Your mic is unmuted. Can you unmute your mic now?
Okay.
I can hear you now.
Urhobo Ado.
Hey.
Urhobo Ado.
Hey.
I
can hear you.
Let me start by thanking sincerely from the bottom of my heart the organizers of this program at this critical time when Nigeria and the world are battling with COVID-19, and Nigeria specifically is also struggling with unstable economy due to the dwindling oil prices. The Bank of Industry is the oldest development financial institution in Nigeria. It was established in 1959 as NIDB, the Nigeria Industrial Development Bank. Today, several histories have gone, but the bank has survived all the changes in the economy. So today, we're a bank of 1.2 trillion size in balance sheets and very profitable year in, year out. Now, what do we do as a bank? Our mandate clearly speaks to the lead speaker presentation. Our mandate is to provide financial assistance for the establishment of large-scale businesses, small-scale businesses, medium-sized businesses, micro businesses, which can be in form of supporting them to expand the operation. So, Madam Stella spoke about AT&P. If we take on AT&P, we can resuscitate it and expand its operation. Think about diversification, which in most cases involves changing technology to a more modern technology to run your operations, or diversifying into a clearly new line of business. Modernization of existing and rehabilitation of existing and new businesses. So all we do as a mandate really is to support entrepreneurship and industrialization of Nigeria. So we are not really involved as a mandate institution in the core area of agriculture. But however, the reality of the Nigerian situation now has made us to shift back a bit, because if you want to set up businesses and there's no raw materials to run those factories, then those businesses cannot repay their facilities, because we're not a charitable organization. So BOI is essentially speaking to how do we drive a raw materials-based industrialization process. So the lead speaker spoke about the various products available that we can see, those who met in the world, those who live behind, even who are living in this world, that our forefathers have been living on: plantain, yam, palm oil, rubber, cocoa, avocado, all the fruits available. We made them here, we're going to leave them here. But the focus of BOI is to process those resources so that there can be value addition. When you create value, you earn more revenue. Those who plant cocoa are not as wealthy as chocolate companies in Switzerland. So for every product you see in the agricultural space, if you develop the value chain, you're going to earn more than 10 times the revenue base or the revenue you get when you sell raw or sell semi-processed. So that is the mandate of the bank. And to do that, we provide facilities More longer term, 3, 4, 5 years, 6, 7 years, to buy equipment at a single digit interest rate. And of course, we provide working capital. We also do some moratorium to allow you to settle down to build up your operations. So specifically, based on the lead paper's presentation, I want to speak on certain products that we've developed to support the agricultural value chain. We have an agro mechanization product program, which we developed in 2018, because we realized that each time there are problems in China, in India, in Europe, most of the business we supported do not have raw materials. And so it is in our self-interest that if we don't seize that mandate to provide support to upscale agriculture in a mechanized manner so that they can have more raw materials, some of those businesses we supported may not be able to repay back our facility. And of course, it was a win-win situation to say, okay, fine, let us move back a bit. Let's have an agro mechanization product paper. That paper is an approved, the size is 4.5 billion, and will give facility to 2 or 3 companies in the Southwest, 2 or 3 in the North. We've not been able to do anyone in the South-South. So opportunity exists in that area. And based on the lead speaker presentation, we have products speaking to rice milling, quick service restaurants, the beauty and hair care, furniture and wood processing, animal feeds, dairy, agro-processing scheme, which have been developed and been used to run the bank for the past 60 years. The challenge we have, each time we go for those meetings and look at the entire balance sheet and look at the composition, the South-South is not present. So I'm excited that this opportunity to speak on the opportunities available BOI and see how people can develop 1 or 2 ideas that we can push forward in terms of working together, identify the raw materials, identify what need to be done to process it, the technology required. We can fund that technology in a very convenient way. 5 years tenure will give you enough time to actually consolidate and repay the facility. So that is what we do. Agriculture essentially is one of the 5 basic necessities of life. Food, you must eat. You must wear clothes. Security, health sector, they're very critical. But coming back to why we are here, there are 2 concepts I would love to speak on briefly. The concept of absolute advantage and comparative advantage. Because the paper says agriculture in Urhobo land and absolute comparative advantage of agriculture in Urhobo land. So if you look at comparative advantage, there's another twin concept in economics called absolute advantage. Absolute advantage was developed so many years back by Adam Smith. He developed that concept talking about, in his book, an inquiry into the nature and cause of growth or wealth of nations. But at a later date, David Ricardo, when we're discussing opportunity cost of doing businesses, now modify that concept to talk about comparative cost advantage. So if I'm going to invest 1 billion naira in Delta State, for instance, what are the alternative opportunities if I need to take that money to Lagos, or take that money to Kanu, or take that money to Abuja, or take them to stock market, or take them to capital market? So comparative advantage speaks to the fact that what can you do better than other people, given your opportunities available. So for those materials where we have advantage, i.e. their natural endowment, we have advantage in all those areas as listed by Professor Akoroda. So I will not spend much time on that. What can we do as a group? Because I'm in BOI, Stella is in Exim, and we have Professor of Agriculture, I think that the facilities and the structures are valuable. What is missing is for us to take advantage of the opportunities available in the system. So I would therefore say that without wasting time, Professor Akoroda's paper spoke on some areas where we can intervene. For instance, cassava. For instance, avocado. For instance, the 1 million crops that he identified, looking at about 11 million. I think 11 million is not a whole lot of money that we can put together to run something that we can try as a test case. I also want to say that collaboration and working together is required now more than ever before, because some of us are working today. We cannot come out and participate fully, but we need allies. We need people to work with so that we can give information from inside. You take advantage of that information to develop structures that will help our people. So we need collaboration to work together to achieve the dream of growing the Urhobo land. And that can only be done if we work together. Other things that we have as a bank are the fact that beside financing, we also offer business development support services. So you may not have to be an accountant, an economics, an expert in finance or accounts. If you have an idea and you come to us, we will link you to people who can help you put that paper together in a bankable format so that we can support, we can provide funding for you. So any idea you have, please feel free to run it through us. We'll look at it and see what can be done given the environment we currently operate. The resources are available, the products are available. We are looking for people to take on those resources. And we do not have that number coming from South. I want to pause here for a second and I'll be ready to take questions later. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Albaro Osa of Bank of Industry. Very powerful presentation and deep insights. So we are going to go into the panel discussion, like I mentioned before. And for those of you just joining us, we want to welcome you to this session. We have with us today Professor Malaki Akoroda, Professor of Agriculture, University of Ibadan. We have Honorable Stella Okotete, Executive Director of Business Development. We have Chief Albert Akpomuje, Senior Advocate of Nigeria, and Mr. Albaro Osa, Regional Manager, South Bank, Bank of Industry. So we're going to start with the interaction, and there are a few questions that have come in already. And I'm going to, first of all, throw the first question to our Professor Akoroda. And the question for you is on the fact that animal husbandry was not captured in your presentation and in other presentations. Things like grass cutter farming, snaring, piggery, goats and catfish farming were not mentioned in the course of your presentation. What is your take on that, as well as how do we scale up fish production in Urhobo land? Thank you.
I think that the slide, the second to the last slide, okay? Put the second to the last slide, the last line.
Okay, second to the last slide.
Yes, in my presentation. Take it, go on, go. No, not this one. Go further. Okay, you stop here. Just stop here for now. I have here fish and prawn. There is another slide where I talked about livestock, and I said small ruminant. That word small ruminant, all the animals that are smaller than goats and pig, I group all of them there into small ruminants. They are highly productive and prolific. They produce so quickly. And because of the protein quality which they have, I think that we cannot drop them. So although I put it as one line, even on this slide, you will see the aquatic livestock for protein, snaring, even bees. It's just that I can't have all the time. But there is honey from the pollen of all the plants in Urhobo land which can turn to honey, forest honey, high quality honey that should be packaged. It is different from savanna honey in the savanna land in northern Nigeria. Forest honey is different. The quality is better, but we cannot say that for today, you see catfish and tilapia has dominated. But I think that there are many other fish species peculiar to Urhobo land that we must capture and use. So I would say no animal is left out. We are only asking, can you commercialize? Can you operate it in a commercial business form using available materials in the area? And I think it is possible. I want to thank that person who brought that question. I am fully aware because I participate on this. While I was in charge of IITA at One near Port Harcourt, we had fish using cassava feed. We had many other things. We have odor using various things to feed odor. That is melon lota. All these things are possible. It's just that with 10 minutes, 20 minutes, you cannot exhaust all of them. I want to thank him. The discussion can continue even after now.
Thank you very much, Prof. The next question is for Dr. Akpomuje Albert, Senior Advocate of Nigeria. This question is on the incursion of the Fulani herdsmen and its adverse effect on farming in Nigeria, as well as the culture of people burying people in compounds and undeveloped plots, which renders the agglomeration of arable land as needed to allocating cemeteries, and sometimes creates problems for effective farming in Urhobo land. Your thoughts on that, sir?
Thank you. Now, the herdsmen issue is a national one. But we in Urhobo, in order to safeguard our land, that is where I propose that all communities must come together to form a common front to resist these Fulani herdsmen. We are all aware that government has failed on its part to protect the citizenry against the menace of the Fulani herdsmen. So what do? We must take our destiny in our hands. Urhobo Nation, every community should be aware that there is danger, and our youths should also be prepared to ward off these intruders. If you want to wait for government, like we hear, most of the Fulani herdsmen, they don't own the cows. They have big shots. Most of them are in the army. And when anything is wrong, if you attack them before you know it, they will send soldiers to give them a backup. But if we are united and we take it as a collective problem, like I said in one of the things, they say if you have a broomstick, it's easy to break it. But if you have a bunch, it is not easy. So this is where I think the town unions, the executive of the town unions, should take the issue of the Fulani herdsmen very serious and ensure that they take their destiny in their hands to ward them off. If we wait for government, that will be waiting indefinitely and there will be no result. Now, the second aspect of burials, like land, where the Urhobos, the value they attach to land is like life itself. Like this advert, you say data is life. The same belief that when you die, you should be buried, in some places, you must be buried in a house. But I think we need to move further than that. Now, in my own church, the Anglican Communion, there was a time we had to debate this issue very seriously. That churches, like it is in the West and other places, to try and acquire land as cemetery. I think time has come when we should put heads together to re-examine this traditional practice of burying people in houses, in compounds, and all that. If we have a place designated as cemetery, I think it will be to the benefit of the Urhobo people in the near future. I think time has come where we should do away with some of these old practices and move ahead.
Thank you.
I don't know whether I've completely answered the question because it was a long one.
Yes, you have. Thank you very much. I think the summary is that there has to be reformation. We need to reform some of our practices in Urhobo land for us to be able to achieve
traditional practices.
Yes. Thank you so very much. The next question is for our sister Stella Okotite. So I'm going to spotlight you now. And the question is, we had a poll now, and from the polling, we identified three main challenges: funding, awareness, lack of awareness, and insecurity. From the conversations we've had already, and from your presentation and Obaro's presentation, it appears funding can be solved. But the challenge that some of our people have always had is the requirements to funding. You know, all the necessary collaterals and almost like passing through the eye of a camel just to get funds from the institutions. So how can we collaborate our resources and come together to achieve some of those big budgets that you talked about, the funds that are available practically from your experience? Thank you. Okay, I think you are muted.
Yes, okay. Funding is available. The biggest issue right now is lack of awareness. And for us to be able to avail you our funds, because for myself and Obaro, we either have investors' funds or we have taxpayers' money to lend to those interested in our facility. What I think we can do, workable steps we can do is this, Benson. After the COVID, I think the country is going to be opened by tomorrow, hopefully. Intrastate and interstate activities will be opened on the 21st. I hope that is done. We need to quickly set up series of stakeholders engagements, seminars and programs where we'll get resource persons to actually create the needed awareness, information. Our people, I'm a Christian, the Bible says, my people suffer for lack of what?
Knowledge.
Information. It's information, because if they have the information, they know exactly what to do and how to do it. No bank will avail their money to you because they like your idea. The ideas could be good, but you need to make it bankable. We need to see that it's something we can put our money into that can actually create the necessary tractions that we aim to achieve. For us, we're a development bank. Our major focus right now is job creation. So if you want funds to create employment, we need to see that, yes, you have the structure, you have the capability, you have the knowledge to actually run the business. So I think the major issues we need to put together right now, the major programs we need to put in together right now, stakeholders enlightenment. Thank God we have, but we have to drive it in a way in which, because if you look at it, somebody told me about 500 hectares of land. I don't know where we can actually get 500 hectares of land sitting in one location. or 1,000 hectares of land sitting in one location today. But what we can do is that we could have it in various settlements. If you put them all together, you have the 5,000 or 1,000 hectares of land that will be needed for commercial agriculture. So what we need to do is that we need to look inwardly to say, yes, if we have to set up these trainings and these engagements, we need to ensure that we have the community leaders, the community president generals, community, we have them as community president generals, we have them as kingdom president generals. We need to get them together and actually start talking. From discussions, we can now set out rules for engagement. Another thing we can do is this, Barros mentioned that earlier on. We can provide, from Nexim, we can provide business advisory services for everybody that wants to actually go into export production for exports. We cannot, Nexim Bank cannot be engaged in commercial agriculture for local consumption. We're an export credit agency. So what we focus on is export. The fact about it is that what we require for these loans is, it's what every normal business owner should have. Is your business registered? Number one. Your business registration. Are you a taxpayer? We want to see that, yes, you pay your tax, you have your up-to-date tax certificate. We want to see that you have a, like I said earlier, bankable business plan. We want to see that your projections align with utilization of the funds and returns. So these are just the basic things we need. For security, that's when we say security on the loan, the collateral on the loan, we can structure it in a way whereby you don't need to go and get, people say, go and bring my father's property, my mother's property. No. For agric, we have the NISAL. It's, I'm sure about Benson, you're aware of it. The NISAL was in government's wisdom, the NISAL was created to de-risk such exposures. So we could get a NISAL guarantee to come in and, you know, help the risks we identify in the transaction. So NISA is another place we can run to get the collateral. We can also do an all assets debenture, which means for those that are going to be adding value, we could use the equipment we are funding as the security. So when people say, oh, what will I use to secure this property, all of that, there are opportunities, there are avenues, there are ways we could structure it, and you won't get overboard by bringing so many documents, so many unnecessary requirements. We've tried as much as possible to make it very simple and very easy for every common Nigerian or every sincere business Nigerian, you know, to get our funds. We also looked at insecurity. Let me tell you, I've talked to a lot of people. Let's not beat around the bush. I've talked to a lot of people that really want to come and invest back home in Delta. But immediately you call, where will you put it? Uwe, Ugeli Road, Sapler Road, they're all afraid. Why? Because the insecurity there is not just by the herdsmen. We are calling, yes, the herdsmen are entering into the farms. But the people also, are they receptive? Do they welcome investors? Those are issues we need to deal with. So the awareness will also help, you know, address all of these issues. Our people need to see that investments coming to our land is not an opportunity for us to milk the investor. We need to encourage the investor so the investor can actually make profit and engage more of our people in the business. And you know, a business is like a tree. If he goes into production, he needs suppliers. He needs those that will supply raw materials. He needs logistics is also involved. Those in the logistics sector will definitely have their trucks plying that route. So it's an entire value chain that we must look beyond our own selfish gain and start seeing business investment coming to Urhobo land as an opportunity for us to develop our people. And I think that's just basically it. I saw leadership failure. Leadership failure, we should stop putting the blames on who is here, who is there. in our own small space, all of us are leaders in our own space. So in your space, what are you doing to encourage agriculture? Are we going to steal people's produce? I have a facility in Bayelsa. After time for harvest, they got there. They have removed everything. People came there and took, and it wasn't outsiders, people in the community. When they harvested all the customers and produce. So we must in our own space see that we can deal with all of these issues. Urhobo, we are very lucky. We have gas. So power is not a problem. Our land has gas. So instead of you going for diesel generators and all of that, we just need gas generators. We'll connect the pipe straight, especially on the Ugeli Road, where you have the better glass, you have the Transcorp, wherever. All of that, artificial, you have gas in excess there. So power can be handled. What we actually need right now is the structure and bankable business ideas put in paper for bankers to actually finance. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Very well put together again, Stella. I'm going to bring in Obaro now to talk to us a bit more. Obaro, you are on and your mic has been unmuted. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
There's a question for you, and the question is, what in your opinion, how can we enhance institutional and organizational capacity to scale up agricultural production in Urhobo land? And I think that also links to Stella's comments. But from your perspective, from the Bank of Industry, what practical suggestions do you have to enhance institutional and organizational capacity to scale up?
Okay, fairly simple, because you practically answered the question. Institution, which are the institutions that can help, either providing knowledge, providing skills, providing funding, or have facilities that entrepreneurs can tap on? So it starts from there, that's the base. So you'll be talking to the various ministries of agriculture, either at local government level or at the state level. You'll be talking to Federal Ministry of Agriculture at the federal level. You'll be talking to agencies of government. You'll be talking to organized private sector. These are institutions where some skills and some knowledge exist. Okay, so if you take a BUI, for instance, we're a federal government institution, so we belong to everybody in Nigeria. So you can feel free to talk to us. We have an office in Delta in Asaba. Asaba controls the whole of Delta. So we have an office in Delta. So if you have a business idea on anything that involves agro processing, you talk to us. If you're into carpentry, you speak to us. If you're into cassava processing, you speak to us. If you're into aquaculture, fish production and processing, you speak to us. So the institutions are there. They are basically government and private institutions. So you need to collaborate with them, visit them, communicate with them, discuss with them, present your case. They will share ideas with you. For instance, all I've said today is available in Bank of Industry website. So for any young person who wants to go into this area, go to our website, www.bui.ng. All the products are there, and the bank is 60 years old, and you can't see much influence in Delta, but the whole lot of influence of the bank in Lagos, in Ogun State, most of the southwestern states, because they took advantage of what institutions that are available and what they are doing. So you cannot sit and think of having all the resources to kick off. If you have an idea, run it to an institution. Now, organization is also very, very critical. We do not give facilities to individuals. So you must have an idea, okay, there are a lot of cassava in my area, I want to do cassava processing. My mother used to process cassava, okay, I also want to go into that area, but not my mother's way. So I need technology, because the cassava is there, the farms are there. We buy you the modern way of processing gari, we buy that technology, okay? So you must register a company, either as an enterprise or as a limited liability company. 3, you also need to have a business plan. Some of the things Stella said, I'm going to repeat some of them. You need to have a cash flow projection. You must sit down and do some thinking. And I'm also saying that if you cannot do that thinking, you can buy that thinking. You can pay for a service and it's given to you. If you cannot prepare a business plan, if you cannot document a process, people are trained and experts in that area for a fee. They will do it for you. All you need to do is to engage them. And all the BDS we have, more than 300, the lists available in our website. Then capacity building. Some of the things we are doing now is a bit of capacity building. If you're a member of the organized private sector, Manufacturing Nigeria, NASME, all these agricultural cooperatives, all these groups, it's important you join a group. When you join a group, there's what they call a group information and group advantage. They share information. If government wants to do anything, it's unlikely going to ask for Mr. Barrosa. You ask for a group. The group can then connect to its people. So group effort helps in trying to upscale our environment and developing our people. There's skill acquisition, attending a seminar, going on a webinar program, go to internet. Instead of wasting time solving other issues, there's nothing in the world today that is not available on YouTube. So if you want to say Gary processing, it's on YouTube. If you want to say how to prepare banga soup, it's on YouTube. How to do usi, it's on YouTube. Spend quality time, run a data, and develop yourself. Knowledge is critical. Organization is critical. Then, where is your interest? You then narrow down to these areas. So for instance, if I'm interested in carpentry, then I will need to, okay, where will I get wood from the logs? You look like sapler, Bini axis. Okay, now what do you need to process furniture? You need a bit of thinking because furniture has gone beyond the traditional way. People have to think of creative furniture. You have to think about it. Are you looking at furniture for household? Are you looking at furniture for schools? Are you looking at for corporate bodies? So it must involve some design, some thinking, some drawing process. The technology required to process the wood is what BUI will buy for you. But it's your business. I will give you 5 years, 6 years, 7 years to repay the facility. So I think that the agencies of government, like Bank of Industry, like Nexim Bank, like Bank of Agriculture, like the Federal Ministry of Agriculture and Development, they have several schemes that have been running for ages. But if you don't know, and you don't go and make inquiry, you will never know. If you sit down and complain, as my boss will say in UBA, that if you are from a poor home, you wake up in the morning and go to the road and put your hand on your head and be crying, that your generation will be poorer than your parents' generation. It's a time to move, seek information, harness information, and get it to work for you. All the facilities are valuable, I can tell you without thinking. CBN has windows, opportunities. Nexim has, we have, Bank of Agriculture has. The Federal Ministry of Agriculture, there's a lot of things they do. They assist in land cultivation, they assist in soil testing, they assist in helping to bulldoze your lands and all that. We have to take advantage of the institutions of government.
Thank you very much.
Government at our own peril. Government is so important to drive an economy, a developed economy like Nigeria. So work with government, work with institutions, work with the private sector, develop yourselves, and come up with an idea. And of course, you can actually grow from there. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Obarosa, for that very insightful context sharing. I think in Urhobo land, we need to pull together. We need to all collaborate and come together. One of the reasons why we remain, the majority of our people are poor is because we are individualistic in our nature, and then we venture into such businesses where we need to actually pull our weights together. Hopefully we can do that. And I think I'd like to now ask our prof, your final question is a question on scaling up. Professor Akoroda, can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Yeah, so there's a question on scaling up, particularly key drivers that push the scaling up process forward. You've talked about a lot of potentials for agriculture in Urhobo land. So can you be more specific in terms of how do we scale up? How do we get into the more commercial and mechanized form of agriculture that give us the kind of revenues and growth that we require to be prosperous as a nation and as a people?
Thank you very much. Okotete Stella has given us some solutions already for this question. She said, you cannot find 500 hectares in one location. But that does not stop us getting 500 hectares. In which case, in 10 communities, if I get 50 times 10, and they are linked by road, I can site the factory in the equidistance so that all those 10 locations can bring to the factory. And I do not have to get all the 500 hectares in one location. And because they can produce at different times, the schedule for supply to the factory can be arranged with the different people. That's one. Two, there must be a cooperative. Somebody used the word collaborate, gather together. You know, if we gather together and then we have cooperatives and collaborations, one-man effort is not going to work. You need a grouping together of resources and knowledge. He used the word skills, know-how, awareness. I don't know everything. I am still a student of science. I travel all the time. I work for 46 countries, but I don't know all. I'm still a student, gathering and depending on other people to help my knowledge. That is two. Number three, you know, the lifestyle we are living now, we cannot compare agriculture with oil and gas, which is a free product of God from the ground. Agriculture is not like that. Therefore, any agriculturist who wants to get money like barrels of crude oil should just walk away. The level of understanding that we can have is that for a long period of time, we can have sustained job for people, sustained factories working, and everybody having a good livelihood for food, for clothes, for housing, and for good life. This good life does not come because everybody must be a millionaire. Therefore, I want to submit that good agriculture in Urhobo land is possible. The ingredients for doing the day-to-day work can be worked out. Some of the suggestions have been brought as to knowledge, grouping of the people that are similar-minded, and getting the work started small, modularly. Then you can add to the module and add to the module until the module covers a bigger area. There are areas where trees, somebody talking of carpentry. You don't talk of carpentry without trees. Will Edo State give you their own trees? You have to plant your own. Every state must plant trees because there's no state that doesn't have carpenters. All those carpenters will need wood. And where will the wood go to? They will not bring their wood to you, just as I don't want starch from Sapele to come to another state in the southwest to be processed and sold back to us. That starch factory should be installed in the Delta, and the people should produce their cassava and maximize the use of it. I want to say fifthly, juice factory, utilizing all the available fruits. Today we hear of smoothie. When I was in Tsukuba is the science city of Japan, I had something called 30 Alive. 30 different fruits combined in one bottle. Like now, orige, oruru, pawpaw, many things can be mixed together, and you take this one bottle, properly produced, and it's marketed across the whole of the country. It can be done. The question is, can we start small? Can we get a collection, a pack of people that are similarly minded to start small? I don't think we can start big until we learn how to do it right. So I want to say that somebody talked about developing yourself. Somebody talked about diversification. I want to also say something about we should stop individual personal efforts. They don't work well. The days of single factory built by one person, I know many like that in Sapele that all failed. They were all built by one person, and when the person died, everything stopped because the children never took part, other people were not allowed in. I want to say, grouping of people working together with combined resources on items that can start small over time, gaining experience from all the people who spoke today, which are still available. That is the way we start. And I think with that, we can get going. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, distinguished Professor Akoroda, for that very powerful one. There is a poll right now just at the spot of what you said, collaboration. The days of individualism, they are over. We need to collaborate. So do you see possibilities for us to collaborate to solve the challenges of agriculture in Urhobo land? This is a quick poll.
Yes, I'm filling my own already.
Yes, please go ahead and fill yours. Okay, so quickly answer that poll question as we bring this to an end. The next person to speak is Akpamuje, and a question for you, and that will be your closing question. I hope you can hear me. Okay. Yeah, I can hear you now.
Thank you.
Yeah, so the question for you is on the role for government in land acquisition matters as an alternative to the community land. And also, how can we improve on providing land for investors in Urhobo land?
Thank you. Acquisition of land by government, the implication of which means if government acquires land from individuals, the major reason why that is done is that the land will be used for public purpose. We find out that most times after government acquired the land, they now give it to individuals to develop as a business enterprise. And the courts have said, once government acquires land and they are not using it for public purpose, it should revert back to the original owners. Now, the question is a bit lengthy. I don't know whether you can recap it.
The first question, the role of government in land acquisition as an alternative to community land. And the second one, how we can improve.
Yes,
the second one is how can we improve on providing land for investors?
Well, let me take the last one. How can we improve for providing land for? How can we improve for providing land for investors?
Yes.
That's the suggestions I made when I made my presentation, that there's a need for investors to be sure of whom they're acquiring land from. That will encourage them to invest on commercial agriculture. If they are not sure, then of course they will be discouraged. And the only way, as it is now, where communities, individuals own the land, they have the final say. If any investor comes, you have to deal with the owners directly. But if we must move ahead, if we must progress in having commercial agriculture, that is where I suggested that these town unions should try as much as possible to get our people together and make out policies wherein any investor coming should be able to be guaranteed that when he acquires the land, there won't be any problem. And that's what everybody has been saying. There's a need for collaboration, because if you go it all alone, it becomes more difficult. If, for example, you come to a community and you want to acquire land for commercial purpose or for commercial agriculture, and you know where to go, and that if you go through that route, you will have no problems, a lot of investors will be encouraged. But that is not the position we have in Urhobo land today. I know it is a difficult thing to change from these old ways of doing things, but we must start from somewhere. The mere fact that it's going to be difficult does not mean we cannot start. We must look at parts of the world that have developed so much in agriculture and see the way they are doing things. If it is individualistic, you'll find out that they can't make the progress they achieved in, in agricultural development. So I stick to that suggestion that either the town union executive or we form a trust that will manage these lands for the owners. And in the process, for example, when the community manages land for the owners, through that means the community can have a percentage for communal development to give scholarship to indigent students within the community. So you find out that everybody will be a beneficiary. But like I said, it is not an easy thing to tell an Urhobo man that this is your land, we want to give it to a group of people or want to give it to the town union to manage. Town union is good because they make laws and those within the communities, they obey those laws. So that's one very possible way that we can encourage investors to come and invest and acquire land without having all the obstacles which they meet when they have to deal with a whole lot of individuals, communities, before they can acquire land.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Albert Akpomuje, for very insightful response on that. I want to take a comment from the participants. We have one of our participants here, and that I want to call on Architect Charles Majoro to say a few words from the conversations. Yes, go ahead.
Urhobo.
Hey.
Quick one. I have short time, so I want to move it as fast as possible. I think one of the greatest beneficiaries of what we've had today is the need to work as a cooperative. I want to suggest that we immediately set in motion a plan to have an Urhobo agricultural cooperative. And that cooperative should have people as individual members, no corporate bodies, because people can hide under corporate bodies and allow you to be infested by non-Urhobos. It will therefore take us back to the old ways where Urhobos, our progress and our joy was not always tied to the vicissitudes of partisan politics. If we set up an IPO now and say minimum of say 250,000 and a maximum of maybe 500,000, when that body will reach it and gather that money, we can now appoint or employ a group of experts, pay them to do the work for us. Not all of us are Greek persons, but we like to invest. After all, those who put only $2,000 in places like Microsoft and Apple became multi-billionaires. The people who invested with the owner of Facebook have made over 50 billion naira on their own. I'm saying, therefore, that if we immediately set up an IPO for genuine Urhobos, men and women, and put it together, we can have a basket of funds, and then we can appoint a group of professionals to work to do this job, and they can interface with the experts and our patrons like Stella and Obaro and others, and even those who set up to do the papers for us and run it as a commercial venture. So all we're investing is our time and the fact that I'm on Urhobo. And in about 4 or 5 years' time, I can assure you that that little money we put, that seed money, can make us very rich tomorrow. This was how a lot of Urhobo developed the rubber industry in those days. They were based on cooperatives. I'm therefore suggesting that we set up an IPO, get experts to put it together, and we should limit how much somebody can own, so it doesn't belong to somebody alone. So the ownership is widespread, as wide as possible. There's been minimum and there's been maximum. And let's therefore set up an executive committee, let them work and give us results annually or biannually. You can only put in what you can afford to lose. And I would suggest that the minimum should be 250,000. If you want it to be less, okay. But we really need an Urhobo agricultural cooperative to be set up immediately. And that body can contact and work on our behalf with agencies where we ourselves may not be able to do it, or we don't have the expertise, or do not want to, but to have money to invest, but not want to take the headache. That is my urgent suggestion. Because it's all well and good to have all these fantastic discussions, but we must take something like a message going forward about what we're going to do about it. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So there's a polling question right there in front of you. Do you think we need an Urhobo cooperative for agriculture? I think that aligns with the excellent suggestion by our elder architect, Charles Majoro. So you can vote if you think we do, or if you're not, if you don't think we need, you can say no. We have not sure. Okay. So I see your votes, your results coming in, which is very good. Okay, we have about 50 people voted already. I'm going to end it at 60 so we can move on quickly as we round up. Okay, so the poll has ended and the results are showing in your screen. So 93% of us agree that we need an Urhobo cooperative for agriculture. Okay, and I think we'll need to follow up on this as next steps. And indeed, there should be several cooperatives across Urhobo land on strategic intervention areas where we find comparative advantage for the growth of our economy in Urhobo Nation. So I'd like to call on Stella to give us her closing remarks. I know that she has presented a few steps, but in closing, I'd like you to just tell us what your closing thoughts are as we bring this to a close. Yes.
Thank you very much. Chief Majoro just, said it all, but I want to domesticate what we mean by collaboration, so we can all be partakers of, what is available. A lot of people will not want to be part of cooperatives. Let's be frank and sincere. Some people already from overseas are willing to invest. So I will just explain to you another model that is very seamless and independent of all our different, individual opinions and perspective. For example, I want to open an ethanol plant in Urhobo land. All I just need is to get Chief Akwamuje now to have a cassava plantation. I need OSA to create, get a logistic company that would move my tubers from Chief's farm. I have the ethanol plant. I need Prof to have a bagging company that will produce the bag for me. I need Benson to have a diesel supplying company or the gas supplying company that will supply the gas to me. In all, the 5 of us already have a value chain business that feeds on each other and creates the end results. So we must not own the farm and the plants. I don't know if I'm communicating. We all must not own the plant and the farm. but we could create an enabling environment for a plant to succeed, you know, and create the needed traction in Urhobo land by, you know, supporting individuals to go into agriculture and supporting some certain industrialists, because creating a sustainable business. With due respect, I respect the Urhobo land, I respect the Urhobo people, I respect the nation, but I was very close to my father. I've looked at the strengths. Look at it, all the community banks we have in Urhobo land, how many of them are existing? A whole lot of them are down, because our individual differences, when it comes to management, we cannot separate it from business. And so we end up producing or providing or operating a vehicle that is not sustainable. And that's not what I want. I want us to have something that will at least stellar. I want us to, and that's aside, we need to come back again. We also have some industries that are moribund in the land. I think we should start from there. Can we have a technical team to outline moribund industries in Urhobo land, and let's have workable tools of getting them back in traction. If it means getting the families that own them or whatever to open up equity for private investors to come in, and we fund them to break even. It's possible, because giving birth to a new child, it needs 10 years to be able to speak the language, to understand biology or chemistry. But we already have structures that know what to do, already made to, you know, they have everything on ground. So what I think is this: we need to go beyond setting up cooperatives. We need a technical team that would identify all of these industries, identify all of these. We have poultries that are moribund today. Now we go to Oyo to bring chicken to Urhobo land. My father used to have a farm. We have piggery sheds right now that are not existing anymore. The fish farm in what do you call it? Ekpa. What can we do to upscale that farm from just producing fish there to producing fingerlings, as well as processing those fish for the big markets? So I don't know, maybe I'm not sharing, maybe I'm going too far, but I think this is what we should look at beyond setting the cooperative. The cooperative is a good one, but can we have a technical team to at least wake up the Urhobo Nation? And with due respect, I have most of my leaders I admire, I reverence on this platform. Let's look inwardly. Can we boast of 10 billionaires in Urhobo land today? It's something we should think about. It's something we should think about. How many Urhobo industrialists do we have today? COVID came and brought in so many names. I was just looking at them. I said, not be their fault. Very soon, we'll take over because try it, look at all the industries, entertainment, all of that. The robots are forefront, we're in front of it. Nothing can stop us from taking over the industries in this country. Nothing can stop us from taking over the agri-processing unit of the Nigerian economy. We have all it takes. We have the resources, we have the people. And by the grace of God, together, sincerity, with focus, we'll definitely get there. So yes, I support the cooperative. We should also go beyond the cooperative to get a technical working committee from this place to actually identify companies that are moribund. I overheard APT and P or so. They are stripping off that asset. We need to, that technical team must meet the Delta State governor. We have the glass factory in Ugeli there. Better Glass is still producing. The one on Ugeli there is closed. The raw materials, the silica and all of that is in my village river there at a way back. What is stopping that factory from coming back to life? Songhai Delta is there. We don't need to go too far. Everything is in-house. We should sit up. We should build up this technical team and get into action. We must get into action ASAP and bring all the players, all the stakeholders to the table. Fertilizers are supposed to be coming to our land. One of our sons owns a fertilizer company in what do you call it, in Port Harcourt there. And we get our farmers getting fertilizer. Over the subsistence farming we are doing now, our farmers getting the fertilizer. If you were part of those that shared palliatives this COVID pandemic era, Some of us had to go to Benin or first all those ends to look for Gary, meaning that we are not actually feeding ourselves as it is. What we won't eat, the Gary we eat, we are not feeding ourselves. We have to go outside Urhobo land, go outside Delta, go outside, to get Gary. So it's a wake-up call we need to, we need to keep hammering on, keep hitting on, get our people awake. And we must, with due respect, the elders here, we must wake the UPU to live up to expectation. Our generation, I can speak for my generation because I'm part of the generation, we are disappointed. We are disappointed. Things have to change. It has to be Urhobo first. We need to send our young ones to go abroad to specialize, come back and develop. My father was the beneficiary of foreign scholarships. Is this still existing? Local scholarship, is it still existing? So beyond agriculture, we must look at the development of Urhobo land. If we put everything in agriculture and there's no road, there's no sincerity of purpose, it will all collapse. Because when the people are not satisfied, they will go into our farms, they will go into our industries, they will steal our produce, they will steal our products, and will not have anything sustainable. So I think I've said too much. I became too very emotional. Please forgive me, but we need to wake up and do what is needed to develop Urhobo land. It's our land. Nobody will develop it for us. Nobody will help us. We must put strings together. And I'm in for the cooperative. I'm in for the SPV, and I'm in for the technical committee. Thank you very much, all.
Thank you very much. Very passionate and energetic, full of energy. I'm very proud of you, Stella, and I like your Urhobo passion. That's what we need, the centricity, Urhobo centricity. And I think that, let me assure you that what we are doing, this group is, like I mentioned, it's a group of visionaries, intellectuals, and we have already started the process. And the first step is having these conversations. And we are articulating a blueprint for strategic sector to revamp completely and comprehensively the Urhobo Nation. And let me also say that true change has to begin from a particular point. And sometimes you don't look, we always have this sense of direction. You are looking for help from a particular point. What we are doing now is a revival and it's transformational. And I can assure you that we'll get to the end of all of this. Thank you very much. That was burning passion, that was raw energy, and that is the amazing that Stella is. We are very proud of you, and we trust that together we will make a difference in Urhobo Nation. Obaro, your closing comments, you are on now, and we can hear you and see you.
I will pick up from where Stella stopped. I fully endorse the recommendation of Chief Osi Majoro, but I also want to add that all of us should set up portage businesses in our family land or communities on Urhobo lands. I took a step last year to acquire a land, massive land, and this year I've started a plantain farm. I want to try it as a trial and also see how I can process plantain to plantain flour. I've started the process. All of us can do it. A Gari processing farm in your community will employ 2 or 3 people. A plantain processing factory in your community will employ 1 or 2 people. So that is one of my recommendations. 2, I want to recommend that in the future, given Professor Koroda's paper and the comment from Honorable Stella, we should get our president generals in all the kingdoms involved in this exercise. They should be part of this learning sharing session so that when they get back, they can spread the information in news. That's 2. 3, I want to say that we need to create a knowledge and a data bank. Professor Koroda's paper should be developed further to have a data and with numbers attached to it. If you say you have oil palm, what is the size? Where are they located? Are they dying? Are they aging? What can we do to get them back? Do we have seedlings? Can we start planting? What is the roadmap? If you say timber in Sapele, the timbers, how many of us have ever planted trees in our communities? What can we do to reverse the trend? So such a data, I call it natural resources economic data bank. We have, with numbers, all the economic opportunities in cash crops, in food crops, and numbers added to it. Industry and players using our resources and see collaboration. There's nothing we are doing that is new. Today, or in the last 3.5 years, I've been in Eastern Nigeria. The oil palm is a major business in the Southeast. They moved it from palm oil to palm kernel cake, to palm kernel oil, to vegetable, to soap. They've also developed art crafts from the same palm tree. And these are done in commercial quantity. As a student, when I was growing up in Echisa, we used to do these brooms. You go and cut and do brooms and you give it to the school. All that is gone. We need to revive all that. Lastly, the vehicle of collaboration that Shimajoro said, I support it, but it should not be only one vehicle. There should be different vehicles intervening in different areas, as re-emphasized by Stella. And then, last but not the least, we need to have a database or a schedule of the various intervention funds available in Nigeria today. From BOI, I can make available. I'm sure Honorable Stella will provide for Nexin. We can get for Bank of Agriculture. We can get the Ministry of Agriculture. We can get from CBN. So have a bulletin that has all the interventions. So people can read it, and when you have interest, you can go and make some investment. Then lastly, get involved, take the risk. God bless all of us. Thank you.
Get involved and take the risk. Don't sit aloof. Get involved and take the risk. Dr. Akpamuje, your closing comment before we draw the curtain, very quickly.
I associate myself with all that has been said. Stella has talked very well, and Obaro. And I want to commend Prof, who is really the expert in this field. My role was just to have the legal aspect of it, to handle the legal aspect of it. And I think I've been so enlightened by those specialists, particularly those who will provide the funds. I've been so enlightened with their presentation, and I think we should avail ourselves of all the opportunities which they have reeled out to us at this session, so that the Urhobo Nation can move forward. And I think the bottom line, what we're all saying is that we need collaboration in order to achieve success in developing the agri sector in Urhobo land. Thank you very much, and God bless.
Thank you very much. Last but not least is Professor Akuruda. Would like you to give your closing comments before we call it a wrap. Professor Akuruda, thank you.
Yesterday night, I remember yesterday night, you sent me some questions, and one of them is what Stella talked about, vertical economic integration. One person in charge of production, one in charge of logistics, one in charge of marketing, one in charge of making bags and packaging. Perfect. We are saying there is no magic wand. I remember somebody saying that there are nothing new, but I could say that it is a combination of different types for different groups of people. It is not one committee that we industrialize Urhobo land. Happily, Obaro has said he has started plantain. Another person can start Gary. Another person, everybody who starts something and employ 2, 3, 4 persons in multiples, then there will be a change. I want to say that the issue of data on all the things that are happening, the data first on all moribund factories is the first thing to be done. Many of them don't need much to be revived. Some of them were just down because of management or because the people died and their children were not interested. Now, new people are interested. Therefore, that factory should not be left to rust. We should now get a group of people to know this factory is low. What can we do to get it back? That is one. Horizontal integration is also possible, but not at our level, because the money involved in bringing so many factories together into one is not going to be possible because the value chain is long. Only a very big person like Bill Gates can take all the value chain together. We presently can talk of vertical integration, where people specialize in the areas they know as part of a continuous value chain. Therefore, I want to say that all of us are involved, whether as cooperative or collaboration, whether we take a particular area and specialize in logistics because I have vehicles, another person has good land because he inherited land, he can produce, another person is very good in fertilizer, he can supply. Even the supply chain has to be made from Port Harcourt on air back to Delta. That's a whole process. Warehousing. I don't want to give another lecture, but I think there are so many areas that we still need to discuss. This webinar should not be, agriculture is so basic that you can't use one webinar to finish it. We can continue to say part 2, part 3, part 4, like Africa magic, until we finish the whole job. Thank you very much.
Thank you, very distinguished Professor Akroda Malaki, for very insightful comments. As we wrap up, I'm going to give someone who's been willing to say a few words, final comments, and then we can close. Can you hear me, Honorable Ejiro? Francis Ejiro Genewive, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you loud and clear.
Yes.
I want to Urhobo area. I also saw me go Ben I want to thank everybody, particularly the organizers, for a job well done. I have learned a lot myself, and I think that it's a new beginning for the Urhobo Nation. This is how it begins everywhere when God is turning things around for nations. I like the passion that is brought in by all the presenters, those who presented papers, Prof, my sister Stella, my brother Obaro, and our own son. A very beautiful presentation. And then the angle that came from our elder, Majoro, the angle of pulling resources together. Maybe that is how we can revive industries like Evo, the vegetable oil company that we have there in NRA. And several others, rubber factories in Saple, Wele, that are moribund, and salt factory at Ogariki, several, that this idea of pooling resources, I think it would be good in Urhobo.
Okay, I think Reverend Francis Waive has been impacted by the weather or the network connection. But the point he's being made is thanking everyone for being part of the session.
And I'm glad that we are getting.
Hello, can you hear us, sir? Okay, I think Francis is facing some challenges. So, ladies and gentlemen, Rubuado, no. we thank you very much for your patience and for being part of this. Like I said before, these are a series of conversations that we have engineered, and they are going to be sustained. After the first webinar, we've issued a communique and we've gone to work. We are not sleeping. we are taking very practical action. We don't need to make noise to make news. And that is why this revolution is a quiet one. And we're not political, we're not partisan. We are just for a good cause to first create enlightenment and awareness on the potentials of the Urhobo Nation and how we can all come together and collaborate for the greater good of our people. You all know that Urhobo Nation has been bedeviled with a lot of challenges, too numerous to mention. And today, it is important that we all restore the dignity of Urhobo Nation, that dignity that we heard about, that great camaraderie and the spirit of oneness and unity that led to industrialization of our great nation. It is time for us to bring it all together again. And I believe that having this conversation is a first step in the right direction. And ultimately, Urhobo shall rise up again. We shall rise from the dungeon and the doldrum of stagnation, and we shall rise to the pinnacle and the top of our destinies. And I know that by the grace of God, we shall live to see a greater and better Urhobo. So you have to watch out for the next series of conversations that we're having. We are going to document the outcome of these conversations. For today, the recording of this webinar is for your pleasure. We will send it to all the participants, and all the presentation materials will be sent to you as well. And actionable steps will come out of this, including the working group that had been suggested, and all the polling results that have come in also will be used to take actions for the greater good and progress of Urhobo Nation. So once again, I want to say a very big thank you to all of you, and thank you for joining us. We look forward to hosting the next webinar. And next one, please invite somebody, to participate and enjoy the conversations. So I think I would like to bring this conversation to a close. I'd like us to call on Charles Majoro, Architect Charles Majoro, for a closing prayer, and then close us in this session. Yeah. Sir.
What's our Kidiagba? Where go to Urhobo? Rao Karo Muyo, Radio Asamelu, Ekidotonate. Ekpere Vejiro Jawako de Jesu. E also, I went to Tabebu, where Jiro Bebu, Biko, Jiro Majereje, Jiro Kaji Maragono Reje, Jiri Rocha, we are Urhobo, Urhobo Kobalo. Kemuke mulo foli, loyo kurubo, lumeloli, rematare, taraje eta, bikolo okurubo ni Urhobo balo. Maro ose biko pere mwawale, eweri arie, eoto dakare na, mane na, wamotara ovo, nijiro Urhobo biko jakpara ko balo. Ire kedia jinyotana ogene yufuma wagogo va obarela wakakpolai. What's a maroon make a polo because I read you be tuned with our brother, Mavi Mojo be Vagogo, Veru, Marocco, Nana, Okaloga, Volesi, Migonos, everyone because you tell a Vovo, Ogadayano, I read you with Macrubo, Mark Belwe, made you with Masu in Regiro, Nana, Befa, Roger Melo, gonna be Blue Cavalry. Akubare avec Regiro. The more work with Jesus Christ.
Is